Okay, let's dive in. Think about those moments, those really big life events that just, well, knock the wind out of you.
Yeah, like losing someone really important or maybe a job loss you weren't expecting.
Right. Or a relationship ending, even a serious illness diagnosis.
Stuff like that. And the natural response is grief.
Exactly. Grief. And it shows up in, so many ways.
It's not just sadness, is it?
No, not all. It could be anger, maybe guilt, anxiety, sometimes just this deep emptiness.
And you feel it physically too.
Oh, definitely. Like being exhausted all the time, even if you sleep, or maybe not sleeping.
Appetite changes, aches and pains, just feeling generally off.
Yeah, that whole picture.
And what's really key from the material we looked at is that grief isn't something you just switch off.
Right, you don't just get over it.
No, it's more like something you have to actively work through. Healthy mourning, as they call it.
Which means what, exactly?
Well, it means really facing the loss, honestly. Letting yourself feel those difficult emotions.
Not bottling them up.
Definitely not. Because trying to suppress it all, that can lead to bigger problems later on,
Makes sense. It's about finding a way to live forward, but still honoring what or who you lost.
Precisely. And this idea of actively working through it is crucial.
And that's where some of these frameworks come in. I saw Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, REBT, mentioned a lot.
Yes, REBT. It offers a really interesting lens. The basic idea is it's not just the events themselves that cause us distress.
Okay.
It's more about our beliefs about those events.
Yeah.
How we interpret them.
Ah, right. So the meaning we attach to it.
Exactly. Take the example of losing a loved one. In RET terms, that death is the activating event. That's the A in their ABC model.
A for activating event. Got it.
But the really crucial part, the leverage point, is B. Our beliefs about that loss.
Okay, B for beliefs.
And those beliefs directly influence the emotional behavioral consequences, how we feel and what we do as a result.
ABC event, belief, consequence. So it's the beliefs part that can make grief more complicated.
That's often where the trouble lies, yes. It's those beliefs that can turn healthy sadness into something much harder, like deep depression or prolonged anxiety.
Okay, so sticking with the loss example. What kind of beliefs, what Bs, tend to really twist the knife?
The sources point to some really common and unhelpful ones. They tend to be very rigid, very absolute.
Like what?
Things like, I will never be happy again. That absolute never.
Yeah, that sounds final.
Or, this loss means I'm being punished. Assigning some kind of cosmic blame.
Or turning it inwards.
Right. I must have done something wrong to deserve this. That kind of self-blame.
That's heavy.
And another really powerful one is, I cannot survive without this person.
Wow. Yeah, hearing them like that, you can immediately see how those absolute beliefs, the B, would lead to some pretty intense C's, some difficult consequences.
Absolutely. Those irrational beliefs, as REBT calls them, they pave the way for things like clinical depression, severe anxiety, crushing self-blame.
And maybe trying to avoid feeling anything.
Exactly, avoidance. Which actually gets in the way of the natural mourning process. These beliefs are often inflexible, exaggerated, and just don't line up with, well, reality.
There was an example in the readings, wasn't there? About a woman who lost her husband.
Yes, that was striking. She developed this belief. I'm broken now. No one could ever love me again.
That's such a deeply isolating thought.
It really is. And you can see how that belief could lead her to just pull away from everyone, to feel hopeless.
Yeah, total despair.
But the RBT insight is that while her grief is absolutely real, totally valid, that belief isn't necessarily true. She's grieving, yes, but is she fundamentally broken and unlovable forever? Probably not.
The belief itself becomes the barrier.
It acts like a self-imposed prison, hindering healing and cutting off possibilities for future connection.
Okay, so if these irrational beliefs are such a big part of getting stuck in grief, what does REBT suggest we do about them? How do we tackle them?
The core technique is called disputing irrational beliefs, or DSLIDES for short.
DSBs.
It's a systematic way to challenge these thoughts. Let's use that belief we mentioned. I can't go on without them.
Right, that feeling like your world has just ended. Very common.
Very. So step one of DIBs is just recognizing that specific thought, identifying it clearly.
Okay, just noticing it.
Step two is where you actively dispute it. You challenge it, logically, and by looking at the evidence.
Yeah, how do you do that?
You ask questions like, is it literally true that I cannot survive? Has no one ever survived a loss like this?
Testing the absolute nature of it.
Exactly. Have I survived other really hard things in my life? You look for evidence that contradicts the belief.
You might also ask, maybe, what's the actual evidence for this belief versus against it?
Precisely. Or even, what would I say to a dear friend if they said this to me? Sometimes that helps get perspective.
Right, bring in some compassion and objectivity.
Yeah. And step 3 is replacing that rigid, unhelpful belief with a more rational, balanced alternative.
So instead of, I can't go on,
Maybe something like, this is incredibly painful, devastating even. My life is completely different now, and I can find ways to move forward. I can survive this, even though it hurts immensely. My life can still have meaning.
so it's not denying the pain at all.
Not at all. It's acknowledging the pain and affirming your capacity to endure and eventually find meaning again. Shifting from catastrophe to difficult but manageable.
That makes a lot of sense. It reframes your ability to cope, really.
It does. And REBT offers other tools too, alongside DIBs.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, emotional acceptance is a big one. Giving yourself permission to actually feel the grief, the sadness, the anger, the confusion, without judging yourself for it.
Just letting it be there.
Yeah, just acknowledging, okay, this is how I feel right now, and that's allowed.
That sounds simple, but it can be really hard, can it? We often feel this pressure to, like, be strong or bounce back quickly.
Absolutely. There's often that internal or even external pressure, and that's where another REBT principle comes in handy. Unconditional self-acceptance.
Accepting yourself
Yeah.
unconditionally.
Yes. Basically, being kind to yourself in the midst of this pain.
Hmm.
Saying things like, it's okay that I feel lost right now. It's okay that I'm struggling. It doesn't mean I'm weak or failing. It just means I'm human and I'm hurting.
That self-compassion piece feels really important.
It's crucial. Giving yourself that grace, that permission to just be where you are without layering judgment on top of the pain, that can be incredibly freeing.
Yeah, I could see that. What else?
Another tool is reframing thoughts. Shifting your perspective slightly.
How does that work?
Well, the sources gave a good example. Instead of getting stuck on, it's so unfair that they died, which is understandable but can lead to bitterness.
Right.
You might try shifting to, their loss hurts deeply. It feels unfair, and I feel so grateful for the time we had. Or, this ending is painful, and I cherish the memories. It acknowledges the pain, but also incorporates gratitude or positive remembrance.
So you're not erasing the negative, but you're consciously bringing in another aspect of the experience.
Exactly. Shifting the focus slightly from just what was lost to also what was gained or cherished. It can subtly change how you carry the grief over time.
That feels like it could make a real difference. There was another case study mentioned, wasn't there? About a miscarriage?
Yes, really poignant. A client who was consumed by the belief, it was all my fault.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking. Such a heavy burden.
Terribly heavy. And through REBT, the therapist helped her examine the actual evidence or lack thereof for that belief.
Gently challenging that self-blame.
Right, acknowledging the immense pain of the loss, validating that, but then helping her reframe the thought.
Towards something more balanced.
Towards something more like, this loss is devastating, and it's natural to wonder what if, but the evidence doesn't actually show it was my fault. This pain is real, but it doesn't mean I'll never experience joy or hope again.
Moving away from blame and hopelessness towards acceptance and possibility.
Exactly. So REBT really offers this practical toolkit for navigating grief. And like we said, healthy mourning isn't about forgetting.
No, it's not about erasing the person or the experience.
Definitely not. It's about processing the loss, integrating it in a way that allows you to eventually reinvest in life, find new meaning, live fully again.
And the sources had some key recommendations for that healthy journey, right?
They did some really important steps.
What stood out?
Well, first off, don't be afraid to seek support. If grief feels overwhelming, if you feel really stuck,
You talk to someone.
yeah, talk to a mental health professional. Someone trained in grief therapy, or maybe even specifically in REBT, can provide really valuable guidance and a safe space.
Good point. What else?
Prioritizing self-care, which sounds basic, but it's so hard when you're grieving.
Yeah, it's often the first thing to go.
Right. But trying to get enough sleep, eating reasonably well, maybe some gentle movement, staying connected with supportive people, even small steps matter.
Those foundational things really shore you up.
They absolutely do. They build resilience. And the final big recommendation was about meaning making.
Meaning making. How so?
Actively finding ways to create a sense of purpose again. This looks different for everyone.
Like what kind of things?
It could be creating rituals to remember the person, honoring their memory, or maybe channeling the experience into helping others. Volunteering, advocacy.
Turning pain into purpose, in a way.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Or pursuing a personal goal that feels important to you now. It's about finding ways to make life feel meaningful again, even with the loss.
It really does circle back to that idea of actively engaging with the grief, not just being passive to it.
Exactly. Not just letting it wash over you indefinitely, but finding ways to navigate through it.
And it's encouraging to be reminded that healing, real healing and growth is actually possible, even after really profound loss.
It really is. There was a quote in one source that summed it up beautifully. Something like,
Good one.
"Grief is the price of love, but healing is the reward of resilience."
That's powerful.
It went on. Even in the wake of profound loss, we can grow stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. REBT empowers us to grieve deeply without getting stuck, to feel pain without becoming consumed by it.
Feel pain without becoming consumed by it. That's the goal, isn't it?
I think so. It acknowledges the reality of the pain, but also the possibility of moving forward with it.
Yeah. Wow. That's a hopeful note to end on. And maybe for you listening,
Yeah.
it makes you think. What's maybe one small thing, one small step you could take today? Something that acknowledges a loss you've carried, but also nudges you towards recognizing your own capacity for meaning and maybe even joy in the future.